Tonight we got an unbelievable special guest. Is Paul Rogers from the Houston Dynamo, and he's agreed to spend some time with us to talk about goalkeeping. I know you guys are probably half as excited as I am about this tonight's session, and I'll tell you what, I've been pretty excited about it. But without further ado, I'll turn it over to you, Paul.
Yeah, brilliant. No, I appreciate you having me. Obviously, I'm used to seeing you guys and girls down at TASCO, but a bit different seeing you on a WebEx at 9 o'clock on a Wednesday evening when we've all been locked up for months on end. So no, I'm pleased to be here. And basically, how I've looked at tonight, having gone backwards and forwards with you guys, is I want to talk a little bit about obviously what we've gone through here at the Dynamo with coming back to play, and basically how we've dealt with the pandemic on and off the field as a professional football club. I think there's some stuff in there, as crazy as it seems, that takes into what you guys and girls are going to deal with when you go back into the high school season next year, especially if you're running any sort of summer camps. So talk a little bit about that, and then I'll talk a little bit about the question that I get all the time is obviously training a goalkeeper when there is no one such as myself around. So we'll touch on that a little bit, and then obviously we're going to leave some time for questions. I think the best way to do the questions is to pop them in this message bar next to the chat, so we're not talking over each other. And then I'll answer them as we go along. So if you have a question as we're going along, just pop it in the message bar, and I'll do my best to read it and answer it. Even if we go off topic, no problem. The way I look at this is it's just a chance to have an hour chat talking with some coaches, which obviously I'm sure a lot of us have been doing in these crazy times. I think between this WebEx, Zoom and Microsoft Teams, I've spent most of my last 2 months staring at a laptop. Anyway, so just to fill you in a little bit about what's gone on at the Dynamo and obviously in professional sports, we've actually just come back to the playing field in individual sessions. And the way that looks for us is we have 4 players per field. The fields are lined off in little quadrants, and basically we can have no contact or connection with the players. And I'll show a bit of video in a minute about what that means for me personally with the goalkeepers. We basically turn the players through, and we have everything from the turn up where they have temperature checks. Obviously, we've done testing for the COVID-19, and then all the way through the session with basically having to clean down the balls, clean down the equipment, and stuff like that. So it's been an interesting. I think we've been back in for 2.5 weeks. Been an interesting 2.5 weeks, but I'll lead into that by what we've been doing off of the field, which I think some of this translates to every coach. We've done, and I think probably you guys and girls have been on these video calls, but looking forward, we've said that this is something we will continue to do as a club. It's an easy way to connect with obviously the management team at the club, but we've been doing individual video with players. We've been talking tactics with groups of players. We've been doing team bonding on the videos, which has been quite amusing. We've done minute to win it. We've had a Jeopardy. We've had players singing live on the video as forfeits, which was interesting from some of our players, listening to them have a go at singing. But it's been a good way to try and think of other ways to connect, and that's how we spent the first couple of weeks. We exhausted our video against Kansas and Los Angeles, so we've gone through that more times than I care to see anymore, considering we didn't win either of the games and we lost to Kansas 4-0. So that's basically some of the stuff we've done off the field. But going back onto the field, like I say, it's been challenging, and I think it will be challenging for you lot when you go back. And one of the reasons of that is the players' fitness. As much as we sent them quick goal packets, and obviously quick goals brilliant for you lot at TASCO, they were fantastic for us. They sent us over $35,000 worth of gear for our players to train at home. We sent the players exercise bikes. Obviously, they have GPS monitors. They have all these gizmos and gadgets. Yet when they came back to the facility, we were surprised how unfit some of them were and how fit some of them were, because you had the ones that put their head down and got on with it, and you had the ones that didn't, as I'm sure you lot all deal with as well when you go into your pre-seasons at high school. So that's one thing we've had to be cautious of, because I think as coaches we all think, right, let's get down, let's get the work done. And that's when you get the injuries. And one of our main focus has been not getting injuries. Obviously, we don't know when we're going to be back playing. Lots of rumours about this, that, and the other. So it's a very steady build-up. I think with a lot of teams, youth clubs going back, high schools when they go back, it's going to be a quicker build-up. And it's going to be important for all coaches to look at where their players are 2 months out, a month out of the season. Even if it's not a major, they're not totally serious about the game or about, what team they're on. But it is the only way for us to avoid injury. And that has been a massive, massive area. Because the players, even here, if they can't get treatment, they're not allowed into the building. So we're basically gone from being pros and pampered to now turning up in our training kit, training, and driving home in our training kit. So we've gone kind of full circle, and it's been interesting times. But from a goalkeeping standpoint, it's been even more interesting because for the ones of you that coach goalkeepers, just imagine not being able to serve the ball. Just imagine not having them being able to serve the ball. So, they're in the grid that's, I think the grids are whatever, 20 by 40, and nobody else is allowed it technically in the grid with them. And it's left some interesting times. I'm going to share. Can you give me the video? The ability to do that. Hand me over the keys to the castle, so to speak.
Right, we got it.
Yep, I've got it. Where's my share content? There's my screen. Quick player. Let's bring up this one. Don't worry about my desktop. It's a bit of a disaster. If you do see it.
Bryce, come here.
Okay. So
Bryce.
can you see the? Can you all see the screen? Video.
Yeah, we got it. We're good.
Okay, so this is basically what the setup has looked like for us. This is Marko Maric, goalkeeper we signed in the off season. Although he looks like he's 55, he's actually just turned 24. And basically, this is the setup we've got. So you've got a quadrant. Obviously, we've got a rebounder, and you're now dealing with players just working fully on their own. Obviously, I'm standing where the camera is. But this is where we're at as a pro team. You start seeing, you're seeing how the pros approach it, but you're also seeing how you as a coach can adapt to it. So just letting it run through, just showing a couple of reps of that. A lot of fitness has gone on. Obviously, I can coach, but no contact whatsoever. Let me just roll it on. Give you another look. And what actually, when I was talking about, coaching goalkeepers, we don't have a goalkeeping coach. Exercises, you can have your high school goalkeepers do, and you don't need a fancy net. It can be a wall, right? It doesn't have to be anything exciting, but it just shows you the different footworks, and then obviously you still can get some technical work coming out of it. But as you can see, obviously this is at HSP, at the training facility, the academy fields. As you can see, nobody else can be in the pitch, and we've got players at the other pitches all around. So these just give you some ideas. Marko struggles with the heat, the old Croatian. A little bit too warm for him here in Houston. But at least we can still get the technical work in. Just move it on so you can see a couple of other things. It seems basic, but it's getting their hands back in. It's getting their fitness back in. And like I say, for me, you don't need all this equipment either. You could get away with a wall. You could get away with a little rebounder. Obviously, we're lucky that we got some big friends at some nice places. So anyway, that just gives you an idea. Let me just come out of there. Video back on. Stop sharing. Boom, and I'm back. So that gives you an idea of what we've been doing up until this point. And like I said, let's take that on to basically working with a goalkeeper when you don't have a goalkeeping coach, and how you would plan your sessions. And one thing for me is, and I said this earlier on the phone, is with goalkeeping, it's very difficult to do any sort of teaching if you don't have someone working with them in a controlled environment. So, for example, if you were going into a possession activity with the outfield players and you wanted to bring the goalkeeper in, obviously you can bring them in as a buffer, as a wall player, as an end zone target. But when you start bringing them into a session, they need to be warm for what they're going to do. So just say, for instance, you thought, well, you know, I used to watch Tony DeChico do a team trains the keeper exercise where he had a number of players around the outside of the 18 just playing balls in and around the keeper. That's all very well, but now you start looking at reps, how fatigued the goalkeeper's getting. If you've got, say, 8 field players, they're going to want more reps, and you start having a goalkeeper that's getting worked too hard. So anytime you isolate the goalkeeper with the team, you really have to be conscious of how many reps they're doing if they are hitting the ground. Now, bringing a goalkeeper, as I say, into a possession activity or a passing activity, of course, it's beneficial. Our goalkeepers at the club go in with the field players twice a week from the beginning of the session to do the passing activities. But once it becomes non-directional possession, the goalkeepers come back with me because they need to do their work the same as the field players do for the end product, whether that be a small-sided 8v8, 11v11 or whatever. So the way around it, if you don't have a goalkeeping coach, for me, is basically take them out 30 minutes early or take them out 20 minutes early, and then use some of the exercises that you've seen when you've gone to different places, different content online, and there's loads of content online right now. Use those exercises before the session, and then you can bring the keeper in earlier. So for argument's sake, if you were doing some sort of finishing or crossing and finishing, the goalkeeper, if they've done 20 minutes early, they're ready to go into the session. If you put a goalkeeper in call to a session where they've got to face shots, it's very difficult. Plus you have the factor, if you only have one goalkeeper, then you've really got to gauge how many contacts they're having with the ball, because what you end up doing is detraining them, because now they're going through the motions without any real quality in their movement. An example I'll give you is with the Dynamo, we have 3 keepers, and the most reps they'll do from the field players is 4. So use shooting because it's the easiest thing to do. But if we're doing a shooting activity, goalkeeper takes 4 reps, the next goalkeeper goes in for 4 reps, next goalkeeper goes in for 4 reps. So you're getting 8 reps of rest. And that's kind of how we build how much the goalkeepers should be doing. It's off of their rest time, which is normally 1-3, 1-4 work to rest ratio. Even if you're at a lower level, as in what you've got available to you, then you've got to still guide those things. It's the same as, look at college coaching. Pre-season's 2 weeks long. How many players get injured in pre-season because college coaches just go too hard too quickly? And it's the same thing with a goalkeeper. In the general session, for me, it's any activity where they're facing forward, meaning you don't want them to do a passing activity where they're turning 180 degrees or more. Yes, they can work off 45 degrees because that would be them opening the field for possession, bringing it in from the centre-back, out to the centre-back, in from the centre-back, out to the full-back. And again, then you've got to look at the running. As much as we all laugh about goalkeepers not loving to run, we don't run. We cover a lot of ground. We can cover 5 kilometres in a game, but we're not doing it at a high speed. Our high speed is up and down, not covering ground. So when you start incorporating the goalkeeper in any sort of bigger running activity in the session, then you put them in goal, you have to understand the fatigue level. And, that's the big thing in goalkeeping at the highest level right now, is talking about their body types and their workload. They're all getting a lot slimmer. Their workload is becoming very detailed with all the GPS monitors and whatnot. But it's no different as a kid. I go to my daughter's training, she's 11. I watched them shoot on their little goalkeeper, Carla, and I just feel for the kid because she might face 60, 70, 80 shots with no real breather. And for me, that's not training the keeper. So when you're involving them in the team, it's very, very important how you do it, rather than just, I'm going to put them in there and I want them to be part of it, so I'm going to end up giving them too much contact. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody, but it's, and I'm going to show you something else. I'm going to jump around a little bit here. Have I still got the screen? I do, don't I?
Yes, sir. Yes, still got the screen.
Very nice of you to give me the screen. So if you look at this, let me just pop this up. Just share this with you. You can see that, right? This is basically how we plan our sessions. So I'm going to show you it from a goalkeeping standpoint and show you how it can kind of, well, not show you, talk to you through how it can go in with an outfield or with a team. So if you just look down, and this is very standard throughout the whole club. So our U10s do this, our U12s do this, the academy do this. Obviously, that's a lovely picture of Jason. This is the same structure all the way through. So we start with our warm-up and activation, same as you guys and girls do. You start with your warm-up and activation. Our very first thing we go into is actually passing. So now think of that in the team environment. Bang, the passing can be done with the team. This next part, which is the handling technique and footwork, this is the hard part. That's the equivalent of your outfield players going and doing their skills. That's the goalkeepers doing the work they need to do daily. This is the one I feel you can do if you go out early. If you went out early and did 15, 20 minutes, no problem. Just to get their hands warm, get them hitting the ground, maybe taking some high balls, all of that. Then you've got the topic of the session, no different to your outfield topic. If your topic is, transition, we would have our topic as well. And we try and relate it to the outfield. So that is something that can all be done together. Because if you're working on transition, you're working on attacking or pressing, the goalkeeper can be involved in that for sure. Because as long as they're now physically warm, they play a part in the either defending team of transition or the attacking team. It makes no difference. And then for us, we then take in the integration, which would be us going into the team. So for me, the real one here that you have to somehow facilitate is the handling technique and footwork. They're the areas that for me, you've got to get into your goalkeeper before you bring them in with a team. The rest of it, you can see how it slides in nice and easy. And that is exactly how we build our sessions every day. I'm actually going to move that on to the next. Just to give you an idea, this is going off topic a little bit. I told you I'd go off topic a little bit. This is how our weeks look when you talk about organizing sessions. So going back, that's us building a session. And then obviously we fill the parts in that we need to. This is then, again, how we build those sessions into our week. So this is mine or Jason's? This is Jason's week. So this is a high school aged kids week in the academy. Game down a Saturday, obviously, for the academy, regeneration session where they continue to work. And then the low, medium, low, high, they're important. When you're looking at a goalkeeper, they're important with field players, but when you look at a goalkeeper, Saturday, game day -1 has to be a low session with very quick high reps. So let's go to your team session. And if you do a lot of finishing the day before a game, that might be okay for the field players. That could actually hurt your goalkeeper come game day. Now, I will also tell you from a sports science standpoint, it's not great to do a bunch of finishing on a Friday if you're playing on a Saturday, because you're basically doing high impact movements that the fatigue will last for 2 days after that. So any of your heavy sessions, if you were game day -3 or game day -4, meaning the day before it, they're where you should be doing those heavier things. And that basically is how Jason would have his week. Obviously there's video analysis in there, there's all the lifting and everything. But it gives you an idea of how he has to structure the workloads on those goalkeepers. And you have to think about those even in high school, what their load is within the session that you're running, especially, as I say, if you only have 1 or 2 keepers, or they're playing for the JV and the varsity, or playing between the two, you're really increasing the amount of work they can do. There's mine, not that obviously mine has any real relation to what some of you guys do because of what I have. But that just gives you an idea of what my week looks like when you're talking about loads for goalkeepers. And you can see my Wednesday is really my highest day when a game day is on a Saturday. So just to give you an idea, I'm going to come back out of there now. Told you I'd jump all over the place. That's what I do. But I did say, just see a massive question come in. Brilliant question, and that's kind of what we're talking about there. It's all very well thinking optimum shape, and obviously I'm assuming you're talking about a fitness. A goalkeeper is no different to any other field player. So if you've got characteristics for your field players, typically our forwards, what are we looking for? Bit of pace, can last the game, can cover ground. You're going to train them different than maybe your centre back that might be a bit slower, good in a tackle. And it's the same with a keeper. The best way I can say it and how we do it is in pre-season we train very similar to a boxer, meaning we do a lot of longer duration stuff. Then as we get into the season, everything is short and sharp. A lot of people think if you do more footwork, you get fit. You don't, you just fatigue. Now you're talking about slow twitch, fast twitch fibers. And if you're a slow twitch athlete, you can't actually make them into a fast twitch, no matter how much we want to. That's unfortunately genetics, and that's what happens. So, but doing more can actually harm the goalkeeper. So, yeah, doing footwork's good, but again, give you an idea. If we're doing footwork through cones, poles, ladders, we're doing 6 reps and maybe only 4 sets. And again, with a 1 to 3 work to rest, because we want to work at speed. That's it. Goalkeeping fitness is very much about the body type. You just saw in the video with Marco. Marco's big. He's very big. He weighs 200 and I think he weighed into that 204 pound. 6'4". He's a big boy. Mikey Nelson's 6'5", but he's only like 192 because he's got that lean physique. So again, we've had to give Marco fitness work, but we don't do that in training. You can't. You just end up beating the player for no reason. Now, going to your question there about GK drills, I'm going to share something with you at the end of this, where we've been uploading them to my website, Performance Goalkeeping, and we've actually put some free sessions in there because we always like to put a few free things in there, and obviously then there's some paid ones as well. But I'll give you a discount cut, and the paid ones are like $1.99, $2.99. They're not expensive. Basically, there's 8 exercises per pack, and there's loads of stuff in there. Loads of stuff, covers everything. There's crosses, basic drills, complex drills. But the idea was to, put some stuff in there that would spark your imagination as a coach, because basically that's all we're doing. Fitness wise, there's some stuff in there. We've got some training and isolation sessions, which a lot of those are fitness based. So I'll share that link at the end. I'll put it in this web chat. But you have to be careful thinking more is better when it comes to goalkeeping. Sometimes you're pushing them into the ground. Looking at the next question there, how do you train to deal with the mental toughness issues with our keepers? Massive question. Any of you that follow me online, there's been a webinar that I did, and winning mentality came out in it a lot. And unfortunately, it came across like I was very hard on my players, on the goalkeepers, and I'm actually not. I think maybe it's what I look like. But for me, coaching is about relationships. It's relationships with your other coaches, relationships with your players. There's boundaries, obviously, in every relationship, but understanding what they're going through is the hardest thing. With young goalkeepers, even senior goalkeepers, any of you that watch the Dynamo, Joe Willis let 2 balls between his legs last year, and never seen Joe let a ball through his legs in a training session, and he did it in games. Obviously they're genuine mistakes, but funny enough, at the time, not to share too much info with you, but at the time, his wife was going through some real personal women problems, and it affected Joe, affected his training, affected his concentration. So there's a situation where he's made a massive mistake in the game. Mentally, he's shot to pieces, but he's shot to pieces off of the field. And if we hadn't have had the conversation, or if I didn't know about it, I probably would have gone harder at him about the mistakes. And it's not a get out of jail free card. It's more understanding that there is certain things in life that have an effect on you on performance. Let's take that to high school kids. The biggest one is social. Dealing with their social circles, pressure of school is always going to be one. Are they fitting in? Are they the cool kid? Are they this? Are they that? Do they have Instagram? Do they have TikTok? Are they posting on it? All these things that are to do with mental, I wouldn't say toughness, but mental issues related to the game. So sometimes the toughness on the field is related to toughness off. How do we deal with it? It's personal connection, it's communication. We have them have a journal so they can write down all the positive things, and then they'll find that there's more positive things in there. As a coach, understanding that goalkeepers let in goals. That's unfortunately part of what we do. We concede goals, and talking through that with the players, making sure the team is with the keeper, not against the keeper. There is no real one area. It's more, like I say, the continual understanding of the position. And I would suggest, as crazy as it is, but I would suggest all of you go and stand in there during a shooting activity with your team, not to make the saves, don't want you diving around or nothing, but to stand in there behind the goalkeeper and actually see what they see and feel what they feel. And then something that as a coach you might see as a mistake actually isn't a mistake. So yeah, so mental toughness issues is, for me, it's not being too hard. It's having an understanding, but still creating an expectation level of what you want. Hope that somewhat answers the question. It's one of the hardest things in professional sports. And then goalkeeping within a professional sport is even bigger. And I think it's even bigger at a younger age, because dealing with mistakes is, I used to put my head in my dinner. If I'd let a bad goal in and, sitting at dinner in the afternoon, my head would literally be in it because I wouldn't be able to deal with it. And if you don't have a support system around you, it's very difficult. And there's been some tragic stories about goalkeepers, what they've done to themselves because of mistakes. Best advice for youngsters. This is good now. Now we're going into the training aspect. Plyometrics training. Low reps of 4, good break. Best plyometrics is to think of the position. So anything you do should be based off of small heights to start with when you're talking about power, heights and distance, meaning if you were doing hurdle work, go over a 6-inch hurdle, then a 9-inch, then a 12-inch. If you're doing sprint work, go over 5 yards, 10 yards, 15 yards, and build it up that way. But the mechanics of it are as important as the power part. I know you get those athletes, those young players that are just super powerful, and you can't figure out how they're doing what they're doing. But you've also got to train them the technique of jumping, of sprinting, of changing direction, because that is all where plyometrics come from. With goalkeepers, keeping it there, because for me, this is where field players and goalkeepers can work together. When you're talking about gym work or the crossover of gym stroke field with lower body plyometrics, they're very similar. We would put more into the power aspect of the upper body, not just the lower body. So the way we talk about it with our young goalkeepers is there's 2 sets of plyometrics in a goalkeeper: waist down and waist up. So again, boxing is such a close connection to goalkeeping. If you think about when you punch, that's a plyometric movement. When you dive, you have the plyometric movement of pushing out your legs, but you have the plyometric movement of driving your hands, which is like a punch, although it's not forward. I think you understand what I mean. You're moving your hands across your body. The higher the level you go, and on the women's side of the game, the upper body plyometrics are as, if not more important than the lower body. I know a lot of people say footworks make saves. If you jump further, you're going to save more. It's a lot quicker to drive your upper body and get your weight moving than it is to push from your feet. And the way the ball's moving now, if you have good position, you should be able to cover the goal using the correct technique, but using upper body power with the lower body power, rather than focusing everything on quick feet, jumping high, etc., etc. If you think about jumping high and a big plyometric, you've got to move heavy into it to become heavy out of it. Well, think of that in goalkeeping terms. If I take a big step into a dive, that part is very slow. Yes, the power at the end is quick or big, but by that time the ball's in the back of the net. So if you can work on a quick step in and then exploding the body out, that's where a lot of it comes from. So you're talking about glute work, you're talking about hamstring work, quad work, obviously calf work, and then the upper body pushing through. But try not to do it back-to-back days. You know, we have a day in the week that's a bit heavier for our academy kids, for the high school age kids. We do have them in the gym 3 days a week. When you say gym, that doesn't mean loads of weight. But like a 17-year-old that's, you know, physically developing, we'll add weight vests to them when they're doing stuff in the gym, doing plyos, doing speed work. We'll add bands to them to add resistance. But we won't add that until the technique of the plyometric is correct. That's key for us. Otherwise, you can end up injuring the player and obviously stumping growth. So, you know, for me, that's how we would look at the plyometrics. Communication with a team in front of them. We've made it, and I'll share it with you. I have no issue sending it. I'll send it to one of the guys, to Andrew or Warren, to get out to you. I have a sheet with basic communication on it. I'd have to dig around for it, but I'll send it to you guys. I'll put TASCO over it so it all looks nice for you. I won't put Jason's picture on it and scare the kids, but I'll send it to you. It's got all the basic communication. Now, one thing I would do with your team, not just your goalkeepers, is when you're doing a passing pattern, I make them talk. And it doesn't always have to be the name. So just say I'm playing to Jimmy. You know, Jimmy, and I play the ball. You know, make them say something else. Jimmy, right side. Or after the ball's gone, there's communication, and start adding certain rules into certain activities. And what you'll find is you'll create them naturally talking, and don't criticize them if they say the wrong thing. Because it's like anything. If you said, I want to hear them turn when they shouldn't be turning, if you suddenly come in and you're like, well, why'd you say that? Now he's going to be like, or she's going to be like, well, you asked me to talk and that's what I thought was right. So there's also the education of getting them to talk and then what they're saying. You know, play games where if you're not on the ball, you've got to be the one talking. So if you're the supporting player, or, you know, you're playing your games where, just say 5v5, only the players playing at the back can talk. Nobody else can. And start putting in these limitations, and then obviously you keep changing them, but that will get them to talk. With goalkeepers, the scariest thing for a young goalkeeper is knowing what to say. So don't start with, you know, too much. Keeper, away, you know, use me or play back. Get the basics right. That's all there needs to be. If you want your goalkeeper to talk tactically, they have to understand tactics. And not every player does. We have players at the Dynamo that don't tactically understand the level they're at. So asking them to talk is detrimental because they actually panic about talking. And, you know, if you're talking about, let's say, shifting the back line, obviously at the pro level they should know that, but we have academy kids that won't say it because they're unsure they're saying the right thing. And it goes back to, you know, mental toughness. That's another part of creating that want to do the right thing. You've got to give them the information to do the right thing. Otherwise we're just saying, well, why aren't you talking? Well, maybe they don't know what to say. So I'll share a communication sheet with you. It's very, very basic. But for me, that's where you start. When you're talking about dealing with a 13, 14, 15-year-old goalkeeper, for us in the academy, when we really want them talking, we want them saying the basics. We don't need them doing anything complicated. I don't need them saying anything that is going to, you know, be a detriment to themselves. You know, and then obviously as they get older and they get more comfortable around the players they're with, hopefully that communication becomes a little bit easier for them. Yeah, hopefully that answers that question. I've totally gone all over the place now, so we're going to need another question. I'm staring at my message bar and nothing's coming through. I'm going to share this with you while we're on this. So while I'm just cutting and pasting this, you guys and girls think of another question before I go off in another direction. If all of you can see, that's what I'm talking about. If you look at the chat bar right now, did I cut and paste correctly? Yeah, basically you'll see there's links in there. You can just cut and paste the links. The first 2 packs are totally free for anybody. Just go like you're buying them, but you don't have to put anything in, and you can download them. There's 16 sessions straight off there, 16 exercises straight off the bat. But if you scroll to the bottom, oh, it didn't go in. Let me cut and paste it again. Get the bottom bit. There's a discount code just for you guys and girls. There at the bottom, PGK TASCO, and that will give you 25% off of all those packs. Okay, so that'll give you 25% off of those packs. That way you can download what you want or what you don't want, etc., etc. That way you've got a chance to see some of the stuff we do, but at least do the free packs because they're free, and everything that's free is brilliant. Yeah, so that'll help you there. All right, we've got more questions, so let me close that up. Ooh, the devil question. All right, how do you get goalkeepers to play higher off their line? The first thing I'd say to whoever sent that is, because I can't see, can I, who sent it? Are you critical of them when they get beat over the top? Because this is where coaching and what we want and then what we're willing to accept, they kind of overlap. Give you an example. We want a goalkeeper to come for, corners, crosses. We want them to be over aggressive. Now, if I'm saying that and we're going through it with them as a team and putting the pressure onto the goalkeepers, then they come for one and we lose the game 1-0 because they missed it. But why did you come for that? If we've spent all this time trying to get them to come for balls, again, doesn't get them a get out of jail free card, but I've got to be careful what I ask for. Positionally, again, for me, everything you do with your keeper, you've got to put them in the correct position when you're teaching them. So one thing we talk about is correct position in relation to the game. So where you are on the field, so higher off your line, lower on your line, left to right. Then the position of your body, and then your reaction to the shot. So if you're doing it with a young goalkeeper and you're talking about getting them off the line, talk about the distance from then to the back line, because that's what's relative. So example, if the back line's pushed up to the halfway line, of course, the goalkeeper can be 18, 20 yards off the line, not a problem. Now, if there's no pressure on the ball, no different to a defender, you've then got to say, okay, even though your defense might be high, there's no pressure on the ball, so you've got to retreat a little bit to maybe 16 yards because obviously there's a threat over the top. But you need to be doing it with them all the time. It's not a case of just saying, oh, you need to be here, because they think about it. If you've not played the position, all you want to do is protect what's behind you. So as a young player, you typically think, let's go and get in it. But making sure they understand the positioning is more important, but you have to keep correcting it. So again, you're doing your exercises, take the time in it, to in a water break or whatever, to show the keeper where you want them. Actually physically put them into the position, because it's massive. It really is massive to get them in the right position and get them comfortable with the flow of the game, both to support the team when the team's got the ball and obviously defend the goal when they don't. But you can't then criticize them for being out of position if they get beat over the top. It's a big learning curve, especially with female keepers, and it is different. Don't try and coach a female keeper like a male keeper when it comes to positioning. If you go back and watch the World Cup, the Women's World Cup, there was the ball's 20, 30 yards out and the goalkeeper's a half a yard off the line. It's so different. In the men's game, we could be anywhere from 2 to 6 yards off our line. So working with women, typically they have to be closer. If any of you coach other sports, a weakness of the women's game in football is dealing with the ball above the head, as in the perception of where it is. You know, which is crazy to me, because I go and watch softball, and yet female players are judging the ball in the air, no problem. But it's definitely an issue in the women's game, and you know, anything that's coming over the top. For some reason, there's a freeze moment, and then the understanding of, do I want to push the ball over, wide, or catch it, etc., etc. So understand that as you're going through positioning. Well, those questions coming left, right, and centre now. I can't even read them. They're going that quick. What is the latest full return to play for the MLS timeline? Don't know. I have no answer for that. The talk of us going to Orlando is true. That will happen if they can agree a situation with the players. But a timeline for full return, really don't know. And I'm a man on the inside, and I don't know. Do I ever use a smaller size ball to change things up a bit? Concentration, hand position. I do. We use the mini balls, so size 1s. We use a soft ball, as in, what's the best way? You know, like you get those balls that you can teach kids how to head with. They're like really light. We use those for 1v1s. So instead of smashing a regular size 5 at 80 mile an hour off of the goalkeeper's chests, we use the light one, and they appreciate that. But again, it gets them into good shape. No different to when you're teaching a youngster how to header. You're trying to get a goalkeeper to be brave. Same thing. I'm not a tennis ball fan. I know a lot of people out there in the goalkeeping world are using tennis balls. What we do is we'll use different weighted balls. I think you saw Marco in the video using the med ball. And we'll change it up that way. And then we'll use size 1. We won't use anything smaller than a size 1 ball, which is the typical mini ball. But we typically do something where there's like 4 reps of that, and then we put in the real ball and make sure their hands reshape. A lot of that is to do with 1v1 training. We do that. Actually, there's a couple of sessions on that thing with mini balls. Training, yeah, this is a good one. I like this. This is like Instagram live questions. They just come firing in. Except, how would you adjust training Tuesday? What was that? Tuesday, Friday. So that's Tuesday. You've got Wednesday, Thursday, and then you're playing. So you've got 2 days in between. For us, your Friday, Tuesday is obviously your big space. Yeah, it's a tough one. That's a real dodgy schedule, by the way. Whoever has that. Whoever's in charge of high school soccer shouldn't be doing that. Hope they're not on this call. So if you're playing Tuesday, you're going to have a light session or an off day on a Wednesday, and you've basically got Thursday to prepare, and then Friday would be exactly the same. Depends on how big your squads are as well, how big your player pool is. Anyone that you're looking at that, let's say you've got 8 players that are going to play 90 minutes of every game, then obviously they're going to need rest. Once you get into the thick of training, you can just overtrain them, and rest actually becomes more important, especially with a high school kid, because what else are they doing? Are they playing basketball, out with their mates, doing this, doing that, swimming, whatever the other sports they might be doing? So you've really got to watch how they recover. Recovery doesn't mean do nothing. Often recovery means do something very light. Good day to do skills, good day to do soccer, tennis, good day to just, do very light, non-contact activities, no big power movements. But obviously the day before a game there needs to be a session, because your central nervous system gets switched on and off. So if you had too many days off, you'd be in trouble. You need your day before a game. That's why on the session thing you saw there, it's low high. It's low intensity, as in low volume, but the intensity is high, but it's like 1 rep rest. 1 rep rest. So you're firing the central nervous system. So I would have Wednesday as my recovery day. Thursday, obviously, be getting ready for the Friday game. Saturday would be probably off. I would go Saturday off, and then Sunday, well, I don't know if you can train on Sundays, but Sunday, Monday, I would train. So really, Sunday's your main training day if you're Tuesday, Friday. In a load situation, it should be Sunday is your main training day. Don't know if that works in your world, but sorry, he's shaking his head at me. If you've got to have Sunday off, can you train Saturday? Yeah. So I'd do a half session Saturday, off Sunday, train Monday, play Tuesday, half session Wednesday, train Thursday. That would be it. That's a tough schedule, by the way. Glad I'm not in high school. How do you specifically coach keepers dealing with penalties? Oh, you do. You end every game with penalties if it's a draw. I can't hear you. Your mouth's moving.
Yeah, different places have different rules. There's a lot of districts that do end in penalties, some end in the draw. So it depends on the district.
But our district does.
I love that. It gives the glory to the goalkeeper, doesn't it?
Yeah.
For me, there's no pressure. There's no pressure on a goalkeeper. Statistically, is it a 5 penalty shootout? Just like regular rules, 5 penalties? I mean, everyone else is on this call, or there could be other people on this call, but typically if your goalkeeper goes to the goalkeeper's right, percentage-wise, they're at like 70%. And that's across all men's, women's, youth, every league. Typically, that's the side. Now, in the men's game, at the highest level, it's now gone high, which is a problem because typically goalkeepers, if they go top corners, we're done anyway. It doesn't make any difference. We're out of luck. But statistically, the goalkeeper going to their right-hand side, that's where the majority of penalty goes. It's 68 to 72% or something. How do we do it? We do a lot of research. I mean, obviously, we've got databases of players. We've got access to all sorts. So when we won the Open Cup, obviously Big Joe Willis saved a couple in the shootout against LAFC in the semi-final, and all of that was done beforehand. A lot of the keepers, it's all about what they do before the shot rather than during the shot. Never second guessing. All the same things that you would tell outfield players. When you tell an outfield player before you walk up, choose where you're going, I would say the same thing to a goalkeeper. Otherwise, what you end up doing is the last one went here, so now I'll go way on 5 penalties to your right. You're going to, at least 2 will go that way, and then you've got a chance of saving one. So that would be me. But if other people will now know not to go that way, but it's a tough one. There's not, people talk about reading the plant foot and open the foot. I don't know how good your kids are, what you're facing, but even, say I got a daughter who's 11. I mean, she can smack a penalty into the bottom corner, and if you don't go early, you're not saving it. So for me, it's making that decision early. Process of converting field players to a keeper. Small school, and I'm converting and recruiting keepers constantly. We are doing the same thing here. Not that we're a small school, but we are looking at converting like U10s to U11s, U12s into keepers if they're not good enough as a field player in our world. Very difficult process. We did it with one little angel who plays in the academy, and it's been painful. He's a good goalkeeper. He's good with his feet. He's good with his hands. Good shot stopper. But he truly doesn't want to do it. And that's the big thing, is you've got to somehow talk in the sexiness of being a goalkeeper, I guess is the best way I can say it. And maybe showing videos of where they're getting hit in the face with a ball, not the best thing to do. But it's true. There is certain goalkeepers around the world that have made the position popular, especially here in America, both on the men's and the women's side. So for me, you've got to glamorize it a little bit. Also get them the equipment they need. Someone doesn't want to go and go if they ain't got the gloves, so get them the gloves. You know what I mean? You've got to do these little things to make it important for them. Make them succeed. Explain, big them up if you can get them into doing it. Try and get 2 or 3 on a rotation, which I'm sure is a tough thing to do. But we've done the same thing, and I wish I had the answer, because we have a player right now, U14, who is 6'2", great build for the age, and I just want them to be a goalkeeper. And they're not a great field player, but right now, him or his parents aren't really for it. So it becomes a little bit, a little bit of a struggle when it comes to that. I don't have an answer for that one. Just big them up, big them up, big them up. Visual cues for distances off the line. I'll send you another sheet. There's general rules of thumb. I'll do one for the girls because the one I've done is really for boys and it's slightly different. Basically, it's a sheet with a field location and then the goalkeeper in relation. But you've got to understand it's to do with pressure on the ball as well. You can't turn around to your keeper and say, okay, the ball's at the halfway line. I want you at 18 yards, and then you get no pressure on that ball. And then that player, takes 2 or 3 touches and smashes it, down the pitch and it goes over the keeper's head. For me, that's where you've got to understand our positioning is in relation to the ball and the back line. They're the 2 things. So if you've got a back line that plays deep, even when the ball's higher up, you're causing your goalkeeper a problem if you're asking them to play higher, because now the space between them and the back line isn't big enough. So it's not just about the ball. It's about pressure on the ball and where your back line is and how you play. Do you press the ball? Do you sit off? All of those things. So, but I'll send it. Andrew, make sure you remind me to send all this stuff afterwards. How do you train women for those high balls? Yeah, I wish I had that answer. Timing over jumping would be my first answer. All of you know Ashlyn Harris, who plays for the national team, been in the national team for a long time, was very athletic as a youngster and then lost it as she started to get older. And everything we did with her was about timing. She's not the tallest. I probably say she's 5'9", but I got a feeling she's 5'8". At the international level for a female, that's not very big. So a lot of it for that was positioning early, and then how to move with the ball, as in why the ball's traveling, and then when to attack it. Problem is with a lot of goalkeepers, men and women, especially young goalkeepers, they wait for the ball to be above them before they attack it. Well, if you attack it when it's above you, there's the time of you attacking, and now the ball's behind you. The same thing is you can't obviously go too early and overshoot it, but if working on that timing with, you really want to do hand toss service. It's the only way to get the service correct, or use one of those nets or something like that. But it's perception is the first part. But instead of starting with a bit distant, tosses over the top and let them get confident with going up and taking it. Then you start adding, and then you'll start seeing when they should be taken off. But they still want to be going up, not backwards. You see a lot of people training, I just showed you a video of goalkeepers going back towards the bar. To save a ball going backwards, you have to be very athletic. For the same ball, you're better going up. Do the footwork to get back quicker and do it before the situation happens. Example, bouncing ball, 18 yards out, player with their head up. Don't wait at 3 yards. Start going back to 1.5 yards then. So when it's struck, you've got a chance of getting it. But it's a lot of perception, both, obviously the depth perception where the service is coming from, and then the height perception of it going over you. But it can be done. It can be done. We did a lot of work with Ashlyn, and she became pretty good at it. But it's a lot of it's timing. We all say jump, 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 jump. You try jumping when you're going backwards. It's very, very difficult. You actually end up falling down rather than going up. So trying to use their full length is key. On corners, shoulder square to the field or to the ball at the corner. I'm a square to the ball on corners. I've talked about this down at TASCO before. Reason is looking at the ball. If you want to read the flight of the ball, it's much better if your head and shoulders are square to it. I use the analogy of fighter pilots, use the analogy of, shooting a gun could be the same thing. I won't use that one because I don't really shoot guns, but we'll go with a fighter pilot. Not that I fly planes, but you're going to look forward when you're flying the plane. You're not going to go sideways on and look over your shoulder. And it changes the stress you put on your eyes. And I know that sounds so in-depth and detailed, but I can't remember how many muscles your eye have, but it's like loads, and yet we don't train them. So put your eyes in a position where you can have better perception, better depth perception, better vision, less stress on the eyes, And that way you've got a better way of seeing it. I know what people will say is if you open your hips, you can get to the one on the back post better. But I would flip that onto you and say, at the elite level of the game, most corners go to the near post. So, and it's the hardest spot to get to. Getting to the back's easier because the ball's in the air longer. Getting to the front's harder. So being square where you can move sharp forward and lateral, that's the main part. I mean, your front priority, your first priority is the front third of the goal. If a ball's lobbed up in the air, you've got time to go and get involved in it if you need to get involved in it. But for me, corners, it's square to the ball. You'll hear different opinions. Two of my keepers open their body. One of my keepers goes square to the ball. It's just, there is personal preference in there as well. How do you make goalkeeping sexy? Well, it just is, isn't it? I like that. Being on a serious note, show what qualities of the top keepers in the US have done on and off the field. Tim Howard made the position very popular on the men's side, super popular. Talk about Ashland. She's made it popular on the women's side. We've got obviously Jane Campbell here at the club, and she's made it, a positive position to the kids that are at the dash here in town because of, some of the flying around and all that stuff. But, it's explaining it's not the worst player goes in goal, which is what everyone seems to think. I actually could have been a forward. That's just me in my head, I think. But no, you've got to show the good things of goalkeeping. You have to be a personality that likes pressure because that's all we deal with is pressure. There's lots of little things I think you can do. You've got to know the kid as well, right? To be able to make it exciting. I think it is a sexy position. So anyway, there you go. That's that. Anything else? What other areas do anyone want to talk about goalkeeping tonight? I quite like this.
I'll tell you what, we're waiting on those to come in. I've got on the side, if you're new to the webinar, if you'll sign up on that link, and we'll send you an automatic invite each week. And then the second thing is that I've already put those resources that you put down for the goalkeeping, the drills that you put up. And that's already in the Google Doc. So you can click on those within that Google Doc and get all the resources. And if you don't mind, I'll add all the stuff that you said and that we talked about tonight in that as well.
Yeah, I will. You just have to send me an email after to remind me. Just say, Paul, do this tomorrow. We don't have training tomorrow, and I'll put that together. I have a pack. And funny enough, I made it when I was working at a youth club. So it's actually at your age groups. And I think some of them I've probably shown at TASCO before, but I'll clean them up a little bit and maybe put a little bit more detail in there for you guys. So I'll do that tomorrow and I'll get it over to you because it is useful, especially communication. Goalkeepers don't want to talk. If they don't know what they're saying, it's scary. But even if I give you the sheet with the communication on it, you've got to go through with the keepers why they're saying it. Otherwise, they just start saying, turn left, drop, step right without any real context as to why they're doing it. And that's where goalkeeping becomes difficult at a young age is there's so many parts to it. There's the fun side of diving around, wearing a different jersey, not having to do the sprints at the end of training with everybody else. But then there's the part of it where there's a lot of pressure on you. And it's a lot of information if you're not comfortable as a kid doing that. Everyone says goalkeepers are crazy. For me, they're not necessarily crazy, but you're different because you have a mindset of I'm willing to take whatever comes my way. Funny too about Marco, the Croatian we've got here. He was 23 when we signed him. He walked into the office and sat with me and Tab, and he basically sat there. He goes, "Listen, if you need to blame anyone, blame me." Me and Tab are looking at him thinking, "Blame me for what? We ain't even played a game yet." He's gone, "If the defenders have got no option, tell them to give me the ball. If I've got players around me, doesn't matter. I'll take the pressure off of them." And what it told us is, one, either he's super arrogant or he really just wants to protect the back line. And he's not arrogant, I can tell you that. It's just, he's like, if if I kick it long or I try to play and they win it and they score, I can deal with it mentally. And he's shown as he can in training. So for me, that's the part of goalkeeping that's very hard to teach. Very, very hard to teach. So. Anything else before we wrap it up here? I was talking so much, my tea's gone cold.
Well, we'll tell you, we do appreciate you joining us tonight. I mean, this has been very, very good. I don't know, speaking for the rest of the crew here this evening, I think it's been very beneficial. I've learned a lot and really enjoyed it. So I want to take that minute to thank you very much from us.
No, listen, anytime. And if I'm around when you're having some of these other calls, I'll drop in. I just like being around the talk of football. And, you know, I was actually saying to Hamid, the assistant here, you know, we've talked about, you know, different things in town or whatever. And I said, look, any of you, if TASCO, I don't know if it will happen this year or not. I mean, obviously you guys will tell us, but if it does, I think you could probably get Pablo or Hamid or even Tab to come down there, because what I've noticed here in my time, and obviously we had Davey Arnaud here before, who was fantastic, and I think you guys should have tried to get down there, but there's a lot of want for youngsters and young football players and developing young players going on at our club right now. This is probably one of the best times at the Dynamo for young players. You know, since I've been here for 6 years, there's a real push, but the people aren't all about just the Dynamo. You know, I mean, me and Jason come down, and obviously we could end up taking kids that you want to play for your high schools. I understand that, but we also still want to make every coach or every player better if we can. You know, it doesn't. Sometimes everyone's like, at the pro level, you're just about money. You're just about money. We're not. There is a lot of people that are. Don't get me wrong, but you know, generally we enjoy, you know, being around the coaches, and you know, some of the questions even here tonight make me think. You know, how would I do that? Because honestly, I've not got to, you know, work on I don't have to work on communication with my goalkeepers. I do with the academy kids, but not with mine. So it makes me think as a coach, what can I do to make things better in that area? And I'm going to get Jason involved. He's actually some of these little pointers here that we want to make sure we get you guys and girls what you need, and also to make us think about it as well for when we're dealing with our youngsters, because you know we have some of the same issues that you guys are talking about right here. So you know, anytime you need anything, if we can, we'll help.
Well, I sure appreciate it, and like we said up here, and a lot of people in the comments have said, we appreciate your time. I mean, it's been really, really good.
Brilliant. I'll pop that stuff over to you tomorrow. If there's anything else that comes up, let us know, and we can go from there.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thanks for having me.
I'm going to throw a little plug in right quick for Saturday. We got Tom Brown coming on at 9 from Sam Houston State. And so it looks to be pretty good. And so, like I said, enjoy having you here with us, and look forward to having you. You'll get the web invite. So anytime you get time, we'd love to have you back in as well.
Brilliant. You might see me popping in there every now and then.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be brilliant. So,
all right. Well, I hope you all get back onto the field soon with whatever you're doing, whether it's at high school, obviously for the next season, or anything you've got going on in the summer. And anytime you're down the Dynamo way, let us know.
Sounds good. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your time.
Take care.
Good night. Good night, all.